Hello there, and welcome back to Who's Better. Now, one little quick side note. I want to apologize to John Carpenter. I have not a clue why, but I always keep forgetting that he's not dead. I must have read an article or saw something. I have not a clue why. I'm sorry, Mr. John Carpenter. I'm sure if you watch my videos, which you probably don't, you probably got way better things to do. I'm sure you'd be super pissed about this whole thing. Anyway, so let's talk about the two biggest adult cartoon shows to ever come out. Firstly off, we have the Simpsons would appear on American television sets in the 1980s, created by Meth Grania, I think that's how you say his name, and Sam Somlan, how you say his damn name, and John Brooks. It was basically a major hit, and it was even considered to be controversial at this time. I should explain why. This is due to the fact that when The Simpsons was first created, it was during back in a time period where basically a lot of the American sitcoms were basically safe and very wholesome, and were largely basically about the middle class white American and often propping up the family ideas and values of the atomic family. When The Simpsons came out, it questioned those ideas, it even mocked them. Basically, not just family values, but even spiritualism, classism, and the American culture in general. But it wasn't just that what made it so great and made it so standing out. It was also due to the well-written episodes by the great scriptwriters and helped by the great voice actors. And the show didn't rely on just one single gag or just a short little joke. Well, okay, it did that, but it also relied on great, well-made characters who were more than just two-dimensional, such as characters as Mr. Burns, a character who represented the 1%, those individuals who basically got so much power that they don't give a one basically bloody shits about anyone else. But the show was also great at mocking how pathetic he could be at the same time. Due to his age, and despite all the money and power he has, he truly does not actually have really any power without the money. He's just a frail old man, which I'm kind of restating things. But the show made great fun about that, having great episodes such as one where he almost literally died because of a bath soap on his head. Or a great episode where he's basically saying to Homer that he has not enough money to share with people and suddenly a giant cache of money landed on him. Classical jokes. Or, on the other hand, you even had great emotional moments, such as the episode Lisa's Substitute Teacher, an episode that comes up a lot, and it's for good reason. Despite the show having quite a few good humorous moments in this episode, it had a lot of great heartfelt moments, as you felt the pain of basically Lisa losing someone that she felt like she truly could connect, someone who truly actually understood her and actually tried to educate her, which is something that a lot of people at school can actually relate to, especially some people who basically don't learn like the rest of us, or who may be slightly smarter than us, but don't have a system that encourages them to actually express this. Anyway, I'm getting side of the subject matter. But anyway, so those sort of things basically made the show took off like wildfire, making it into one of the best TV shows, selling off to toys, and eventually basically movies and comic books and a whole bunch of other stuff. However, this did not last forever, as Simpsons continued, and many of its original creators, scriptwriters, and voice actors began to move for various different reasons. The show started going downhill, and it wasn't just that. What made The Simpsons so great is that it mocked the things at its time period that were very popular and held at high regard. However, The Simpsons never moved off this. They kept relying on that, until the point that when they were starting to change, they began to basically accept those very things that they mocked. And this is what really damaged the show, which didn't either help was that despite the show being considered sometimes an adult show, it's not that very adult. And in many ways, it could easily enough appeal to kids and adults. That's what made it also so great. However, as the show's been going on, it seems to be leaning more and more towards younger children. While there are still adult jokes here and there, there's not as much as there used to be. The other greatest problem is that sometimes, as I was watching the show, I find that sometimes it does some interesting episodes, but never goes with an idea. For example, one episode, Lisa's working at a newspaper, only to suddenly find that basically the newspaper's going to get shaken up by a new kid because it's not selling enough paper, and he wants to put scandals and all that usual sort of crap you get in most modern day newspapers. The show does nothing at all with this sort of thing in the episode. Instead, it focuses on the story with Marge learning how to do windsurfing from, I think, in New Zealand or Australian. I can't honestly tell the two apart, despite the fact that I'm Australian myself. And then randomly, the episode says he's a commie spy or Russian spy or whatever the Americans believe nowadays, because he can't afford a certain type of model of car. And that's how the episode ends. He's revealed to be a spy. Good night, folks. Meh. Oh, whatever people do when they go off the stage department. So, yeah. And unfortunately, like I said, this is where South Park is going down. I mean, not South Park, I mean Simpsons is going down and down. And unfortunately, I don't think it's ever going to be able to return. Now, let's just talk on a little side note of interesting things was that once The Simpsons came out, it had a lot of copycats. Some of them succeeded, some that didn't, and there were many other adult shows that weren't copycats, but unfortunately never got the same popularity. Some of these copycats were like Fish Police, an interesting experiment, but I don't recommend people to watch, and the other one was The Max, which I highly recommend everyone to check out, and I might one day do a review of it. Anyway, that's beside the point. I'm sure there's going to be some people saying now, who could be beating The Simpsons of its ginormous throne that it has made for itself in the adult comedy market? Well, as if the title gives away, but I feel like Dragon the Song was a terrible joke. It's definitely not Rick and Morty. It's definitely not Family Guy, any Seth Martin creations. It's not Bob Burger. And it's definitely not Joe Horseman, BoJack Horseman, or however you said that goddamn name. That would be South Park, created by Tracy Parker and Matt Stone, which I'm probably getting those two names wrong. Now, this show would appear in the American television series, great, now I'm losing my words. Anyway, back in the 1970s. Now, unlike Simpsons, where despite the fact that it did try to cross boundaries, but it always did it in a safe way, South Park basically did not give two shits about this, and basically dug up some famous saint, pissed on them, ground their ashes, and then snorted like a cocaine right in front of you. And honestly, that would be honestly a South Park episode, and I'm sure they have done it somewhere. And that's basically South Park in a nutshell. What made the show so great is that it was like Simpsons, but it did a way more. It didn't just question culture about, like the American culture, religion, or families, as Simpsons did. Great, now I'm getting the two shows mixed up. It basically questioned everything and mocked anyone. It wasn't really on anyone's side, which was both a disadvantage for the show, as sometimes it can get a little bit preachy and up its own ass, and sometimes it's a bit hard to understand who they're really trying to stand for. But this is why I love it, and in my own personal reason, really love South Park, and I feel like it is one of the best adult shows we had for a very long time. And also something I forgot to mention was Simpsons, due to the fact that it uses animation as one of its unique selling points. Unlike Simpsons, I feel like it uses it way more. And I know Simpsons have been using more and more of its animation as the series has been getting on, and this is something I forgot to previously mention. What made Simpsons so great was how it was still grounded despite some of its more cartoonish moments. The newer Simpsons really goes all hog with its more open and more cartoonish moments, which again leads down to the show's never before and never going to be returning again. However, I feel like it's kind of different because South Park never tried to be grounded. It always wanted to be over the top, and it uses it so great. And especially its animation really helps it, because basically it deals with some episodes where you literally have an episode with giant freaking Cthulhu popping out of one of the episodes, all the way to an episode where you're literally dealing with pedophiles, which is something you could not do in a live action show with kids. Let's just say that much. But what also makes the show so great, just like The Simpsons, is that it wasn't just a series of gags, it was also incredibly well written and had such a great mindset. As one of my friends pointed out, is that it really understands how children think and how they perceive the world. And this is what the show is really like. An extreme version of how a child pictures the world. It also showed how dangerous it is for adults to never really grow up, especially those in power. And one of the other greatest moments about the show was that despite the fact that the creators of South Park actually apologized to the Chinese government in a letter that was not that 100% sincere, I think that's the word, they basically challenge and question the Chinese government. A very hot topic issue with a lot of very multiple parts in it that is a very complicated issue that is very hard to boil down. And they nonetheless tackled it and talked about it in such a very intelligent and very clever way. And I just want to mention this before we wrap it up. One of my all-time favorite episodes was always basically gluten episode. This episode really shows how good South Park was over Simpsons by tackling an issue that a lot of people have nowadays, and that is with gluten. This episode literally tackled that by just showing how silly and sometimes how extreme people can take certain situations. By in this case, having gluten basically causing your willy, dick, or whatever you want to call it, fly off like a rocket and explode. And it was just so hilarious watching it, and there's a lot of things I could go in depth with it, but I think this episode's running long enough as it is, and it's terrible as enough as it is. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that, and maybe next time I might have another one of these videos, or I might be reviewing a game. I'm not sure which, we have to see. Auf Wiedersehen.